What will Colorado look like on your game on Saturday against TCU, who I project will be closer to a third or fourth place Big 12 team this year, not a national championship game Big 12 team?
Probably. I think that we can assume if you take this like both of those. Okay, so let's answer the TCU side of that. TCU. I like what TCU. I like what Sonny has done. I think we all do.
Oh, yeah.
He's done a great job in the transfer portal. They've recruited well. They've got some really good players that a lot of the fans down there in Alabama are going to be familiar with that were at Alabama that just didn't pan out, for whatever reason. And listen, that happens when you're at a place, with that many people or that many great players. So he brings some of those guys that were, DFW guys back in. Trey, I think is one of those guys. JoJo, one of those guys. I think that TCU, it would be pretty wild for us to think that they could replicate what happened last year, because there were a few things that happened that are just like you cannot rely on them. One is they stayed remarkably healthy, in particular from their starters, on a team that wasn't particularly that deep. And two is they won every close game that they got into. Like except for the Big 12 championship game in Dallas against Kansas State, which you can argue, they made a bit of a coaching error right there at the end and didn't give Max the ball at the goal line and probably could have had a chance to win that game there late. They won every single close game, and then they lose the guy, Max Duggan, who played so well in all of those close games. So regardless of how much deeper you think you are or how much talent that they've amassed, it's really hard to believe that they could repeat what they did a year ago. So I think that it's fair to say that TCU will take, or we can expect them to take, a little bit of a step back. All right, so that's TCU. Colorado was 1-11 last year. They lost by an average of 29. 29. That's a staggering amount, guys. Let's just put it this way. Northwestern was also 1-11. They lost by an average of 14. So basically Colorado was twice as worse as the next worst team in the Power Five. They needed to clean house. They have brought in a substantially better roster. There's going to be 90 new players at Colorado. 90. There are only 9 scholarship players remaining from a year ago. Everyone, seems to think that that's some sort of bad thing. I actually think when you look at a 1-11 team that lost by an average of 29, that's necessary. Just to give you some sense, like, this is not unprecedented. Nebraska has 68 new players. I'm about to do their game on Thursday night. So, and that team certainly wasn't as bad as Colorado. Colorado at the skill positions, at least their starters. Now, this is going to be a very thin team, and it's going to be a very talented team on the outside. They are as good as any top-end conference team at the skill positions out there. Okay, their wide receivers are going to be really good. Their running backs, it's actually a really deep room, probably the strength of their team. Their linebackers and defensive backs, their safeties, their corners, like, they can play at those areas. The question remains up front, what they're going to be, what the depth is going to be up front. How can they mask some inefficiencies on their offense and defensive line, which, quite frankly, is a similar question that a lot of teams have this time of year, because there's only a small select few number of teams that can look at the line of scrimmage and say, yeah, we're ready to go for a college football year up at the line of scrimmage. That's going to be the question for Colorado.